Alright, so now we're going to go into the window, how those work. And so we've already talked about how we add new buttons, but let's go into how we add sliders. So all we do is kind of go into the add new device widget, go back into custom widget, and here obviously controller widget, so we want a slider. So what we would do is say this is slider, I think this one's slider. Actually, I have like a couple of them, so let's put slider 5. So here is the example that I mean when you get to select what room you wanted to add the widget on. So here we want to add it to Hans room 2 because that's the one we're looking at. Analog actuator, you can kind of, it limits to what it is. So here, as you see, so don't worry about which one to choose. It kind of limits which one you do depending on the, and actually what channel should I do? So let's do like 43 because I know that's just such an odd number, and I'm pretty sure I didn't make any other channels 43. So I've added essentially this slider, and watch it just show up. Okay, so slider 5. So for sure it has from 0 to 100, and that's pretty much how I did these other ones. But as if you may have noticed, this is what's going to control our servos, but it's from 0 to 100 doesn't really relate to our limits of the servo, which is from 150 to 500. So let us show you kind of how we make the 0 to 100 widget relate to the max and minimum placement of the servo. So I pulled up a little presentation for us. So let's just go ahead and look at this for a second. So right now we're looking at the window widget. Here, this is a good graph to see the servo, how it operates. So if you have the minimum pulse width, your servo is at the 0 position, and if you set a maximum PWM with a larger pulse width, it'll set to its max position. And our servos do only go from 0 to 180. So this is just a good graph showing how that operates. So the PCA 9685 control values are from 150 to 500 as we discussed, and the slider max ranges from 0 to 100. So, okay, here we go. So the way we do that is we need some kind of multiplier to multiply this. That'll give us 150. So in order to do that, we subtract servo max to servo min divided by our slider range. And what we do is we get like a multiplier value, and that is what we're considering our rate. So in order to rotate to a specific position, we will have servo minimum, which is 150, plus the rate equal to the set multiplied times the set point, which is from 0 to 100, and that'll give us the exact position we want. Say if we want it at 0, we want the servo to be at a position of 0. So let's go ahead and do that. So if we say set point is 0, well, 0 plus servo minimum, which is 150, does in fact get us to the 0 position. So you kind of see how that works. So if we plug in 100 for the set point, 100 times the rate will equal plus the 150 will equal the 500. And just to give you a quick example, as you see here, our value 500 minus 150 is 250. So 350 is the difference number divided by the slider range 100. So basically what we just did is we found a single multiplier that every step we take will relate to the control value. So if we put in 100 for the set point, multiply times 3.5, here's the math for this operation, and then we add it to the 150, you can clearly see that our value is 500, which will set the pulse width to its maximum position. So let's exit out of that, and let us go back here. So how does that work? So now we're looking at channel 12. So let's go ahead and look at channel 12 on our dashboard. So where would that be? Okay, so see how it's a nice thing to have these channels here. So setting it to 50 position, our windows just open halfway. Setting it to the max Okay, now our window's just opened all the way up. So let's go ahead and see how this works. So yeah, we get that value as an integer, we equal it to the x. Now we exactly did the exact same math that we showed in the presentation, and that is going to be our position, and we equal that position simply to the on time, or the pulse that we exactly wanted to set off on. And the 0 is means that it's communicating with the 0th PWM. So that's how our windows work, and that is how we are kind of opening and closing our window blinds to certain positions.